Hi guys, what's up? It's Jim from On Point Samples, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own kick effects. Stuff like that. Kick effects are a really big part of hardstyle and hardstyle productions, and any hardstyle producer should know how to make them. I know a few of you, or like a lot of you, already know how to make these. So in this tutorial I'll show a few more techniques that are just more than the basics, because then you can really develop your own sound. But I'll just first start with the basics and go from a simple sound into a complexer sound and how to get your own kick effect, because it's important to know the basics, right? So you will get sounds like this, and you can also find these in our new hardstyle pack, Fractal Hardstyle Effects Volume 1, and you get sounds like this. And there's a lot of kick effects, and there's unique ones and simple ones like the classic ones, and I'll show you how to make both. So first of all, what you should realize when you're working on a kick effect, you are working on a preset in your playlist. And that sounds really weird, but that's how I like to see it. If you make a preset in a plugin, it's just like you're tweaking the knobs, and you know, this is like, now it's a preset. You can also like abstractly say you're making a preset in your playlist, and that's because you have a sample, you load it into your mixer, you add automation clips, and then you add distortion, EQ, and you get a kick effect. And then once you've made that, then you can just change a few knobs. That's what I really like, because you add an EQ, then you add distortion, EQ, distortion, EQ, distortion, whatever, and you move a knob. And because you've added this distortion, you're really boosting small things. So like you boost whatever is coming before the distortion, and because it's distorted really heavily, a really small change before the distortion plugin will result in a really drastic sound. Well, that's actually what you're doing with kick effects. And if you change a really small thing as the dry signal that goes into the distortion, you get a really different sound. And that's what I mean with a preset. You're working on a preset where you can just tweak like an automation clip a little bit more, and then you get a super different sound. So that's what you're working on. If we take this sample here and we add no effects at all, it sounds like this. That's nothing. It sounds really bad. If I add the distortion and everything, so this is like the basics, you add an EQ, and with this EQ, instead of this, it sounds like that. And now you can hear it's just different, it's filtery, but because you add the distortion after this really big filter, that's how you get the kick effect. And now basically that's everything you need to know about a kick effect. So how you get to this point is literally just like this. You open the EQ, then you boost 2 or 1 knob, and then you take these two, that's like the frequency range, and you add it to an automation clip, and both of those will move based on this automation clip. So that's it. And then you can remove bass, and that's like the biggest part about this. If you remove bass before a distortion plugin, you get a really less crunchy sound. Like, it's not as muddy. That's what I'm trying to say. You can hear the difference, and that's what you need to do. You get to find like the frequencies that are annoying. And then you add the distortion, so wave shaper is great, just boost it. Then you need to make sure your mix is right, and that's basically it. You add a compressor, you add a limiter to remove the peaks, you remove some bass, add some high end, and you do the same thing to make sure it sounds clean. That's it. You can add some reverb and delay to make it doper. There you go. So those are like the basics of kick effects. It's just about adding a cue with a top notch and then distortion, and that's it. And because you've now created this automation clip, distortion, and you have made this preset, it's really easy to tweak some stuff. So you can go into this automation clip and make an LFO of it. You know what I mean? You have a really different sound. You can add the different... Those were the basics, and I'll really show you how to get from that point into experimenting and getting a different type of kick effect. And I feel like kick effects kind of should be defining an artist. Like, if you make your signature sound, you know, you could show that with your kick effects. There are so many ways to create different types of kick effects, and it's up to you to make your own, but I'll show some techniques. So the first thing you can do is change the automation clip, just like I did there. You add an LFO, or you just change it like that, or you just tweak these knobs, the minimum and maximum amount. Different stuff happens when you do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is change the sample. I know you've made this kick, it sounds dope. What you can actually just take another kick, maybe from our sample pack. Here we also kicks 1 or 2, it's on our website, but you change the kick. different kick. It sounds different. There you go. What you can also do is boost, like change the pitch. It might sound doper at another pitch. You can do the pogo, you can reverse it, you can make it shorter, longer. Those are ways to change the sample. So first thing is change the automation clip. Secondly is change the sample. Great plugins to use for manipulating your sound from a basic one into an experimental one, but kind of without distorting too much. Our Rift, Camel Fat. Rift is here. That's a dope plugin. You can add Camel Fat and you can add Camel Crusher. That's a great one as well. And these plugins kind of allow you to go from a basic sound into a more complex sound. So it's with presets and it all works on like sample rate, tuners, whatever, filters, I don't know, phasers. It's just crazy effects. You could go from whatever you had to this. And it's really inspiring. And then you add the distortion and the EQ. And you have a different sound. So that's a way to do it. So just add crazy stuff before your distortion. And there's nothing much more to it. You just drag and drop your sample in here. You go and create random stuff for 50 minutes. That's also how you get a lot of samples, by the way. Just load something in here, render each version you get, make a big folder. And for your song, suddenly you have like 30 samples to drag and drop into your song. And that's really dope. So yeah, those are basically all the things you need to know about kick effects. As a small recap, you just add an EQ, distortion, change the peaks in your EQ before you add the distortion and you get crazy sounds. And then if you want to experiment, change your sample, just load another into it, just change the pitch, the time stretch, reverse it, do crazy stuff with the dry signal. Then you can add stuff like Camel Fat, Camel Crusher, Rift, or you can add stuff like a phaser. Fruity phaser is fine, Fruity chorus is fine. Just add stuff that really changes the way the sample sounds. And don't be afraid to experiment and do crazy stuff with it, because that's how you make really unique stuff and you get cool kick effects. And it's really important to have cool kick effects, right? So after you've made that with the distortion, just make sure to mix it properly. And you do this with a compressor. You can just find the threshold, make it squash together a little bit more, remove the peaks with a limiter, remove some bass or whatever suits your type of kick effect you've just made, add some high end maybe, and EQ it one more time. And that's it. And then you have the kick effect. So if you like this tutorial, just let me know in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Have a nice day. Bye, man.